All right, so picture this. You're in Rome, right? And you're on the Spanish Steps, living the dream. Sun's out, you've got some gelato,
Sounds nice.
and life is good. Yeah. But then it hits you. Who actually owns these things?
It's funny how those little questions pop into your head when you're traveling. Most people probably don't stop to think about the legalities of landmark ownership when they're busy taking in the scenery. But that's what I love about this Love to Visit Italy newsletter. You get those little historical quirks and those travel secrets that you just wouldn't expect.
Yeah, for sure. Really makes you think. And get this. The Spanish Steps, as Roman as they seem, were actually financed by the French. Not only that, but they were managed by, get this, a French organization, the Puys Établissements, until the late 19th century.
Yeah.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things that makes you do a double take. But when you actually stop and think about it, considering the history, it starts to make sense. I mean, think about it. 17th, 18th centuries, France had its fingers in a lot of pies, especially in Rome. They had a lot of influence, culturally and politically. It was the era of the Sun King, Louis XIV, remember? And that guy, he was all about expanding French power, and prestige, of course, all across Europe. And one of the ways he did that was sponsoring these big, grand architectural projects in all the major cities.
So it was a bit of a power move, like, hey, look at us, we're France, making our mark on Rome.
Yeah, pretty much. Funding the Spanish Steps, which, by the way, were built to connect the Spanish embassy at the bottom to the Trinità dei Monti church at the top. It was a way for France to kind of plant their flag, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
in Rome.
It's amazing how much history we walk past without even realizing it. Makes you wonder what other ownership surprises are out there.
Oh, I'm sure there's tons. Think about the Taj Mahal. When you picture that, you think India, right?
Of course, that white marble, it's iconic.
Exactly. But there's actually a debate going on about its origins. Some Hindu groups, they believe it used to be a Hindu temple, which adds a whole other layer to the story. They've even gone to court trying to get ownership back.
Wow, really? I had no idea. So even the most famous landmarks can have these, like, contested pasts. And those disputes, they often reflect something deeper going on culturally or politically, don't they?
Exactly. Understanding those hidden histories can completely change how you see these places. Take the Spanish Steps, for example. Knowing about the French influence there, you might start noticing little architectural details that you never saw before, things that reflect that French style. What do you think?
Yeah, totally. It's like finding a hidden message in your favorite painting or a secret drawer in an old piece of furniture. Suddenly you see it in a whole new light.
Right. It reminds us that everything we see is just one chapter in a much longer story. And those stories, they're shaped by all these fascinating things, cultural exchanges, power dynamics, evolving identities. It's amazing what goes into making a landmark.
Makes you wonder what stories those ancient stones could tell, huh?
Absolutely. That's the beauty of history, especially when you experience it through travel. It's all about challenging what you thought you knew and embracing the unexpected.
And speaking of unexpected, this newsletter highlights some really cool under-the-radar spots in Italy. They even have a top 10 places to visit list. And since we're on the topic of Italy, anything in particular that caught your eye?
Well, let me tell you, if you're someone who likes to get off the beaten track, this newsletter mentions a place called Terme di Saturnia.
Okay, Terme di Saturnia. Sounds intriguing.
Yeah, so it's, get this, a 3,000-year-old thermal crater in Tuscany.
Hold on. 3,000 years old. That's insane. I had no idea something like that even existed.
Right, so picture this. You're soaking in these naturally heated waters, surrounded by these rolling hills, history everywhere.
You had me at naturally heated waters. That sounds incredible. So we've got historical intrigue in Rome, ancient relaxation in Tuscany. What else does this newsletter have for us?
Let's see. Oh, they also talk about the Amalfi Coast, which, of course, is a classic for a reason. You've got those dramatic cliffs, little villages clinging to the hillsides.
I've seen pictures. It's definitely one of those bucket list destinations.
Yeah.
This newsletter is really making me want to book a flight right now.
Yeah.
But before we move on, there's one more thing I have to ask about. They mentioned something about Italian red wine without the headache.
I know, right? Now, as someone who enjoys a glass of red, that definitely piqued my interest.
Tell me more, because that sounds too good to be true.
So apparently there's this grape, Sagrantino, mainly grown in the Monefalco region of Umbria. And get this, some people say it doesn't give you those dreaded wine headaches.
Are you serious? That's amazing. Is there any reason why?
Honestly, the newsletter didn't really go into detail about the science behind it. They just said that this Sagrantino grape has been getting a lot of buzz, especially among the wine lovers who visit Monefalco.
I guess that just adds another reason to visit Monefalco, right? Do a little research of our own on this magical headache-free wine.
Now that's my kind of research. You can't beat a little firsthand experience. But it's interesting to think about what we were discussing earlier about the ownership of landmarks and hidden histories, right? It makes you think about the stories behind the things we eat and drink, too.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, take this Sagrantino grape. Who discovered it? How long has it been growing there? What's its story?
That's such a good point. It's like everything has a backstory, a history. And sometimes all it takes is a little fun fact to make you dive in and explore.
Exactly. It's one of the best things about learning something new, right? It opens up all these new questions and connections you didn't even know existed.
It's like they say, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. But I do have to wonder, is there a way to apply this idea of uncovering hidden histories to, our own lives?
It really is fascinating when you think about it that way. Like, instead of just seeing the Spanish Steps as a cool backdrop for a selfie, with our gelato in hand, we can actually appreciate them for all those layers of history that they represent. Like you were saying, the French influence, the Italian pride, the centuries of stories that have played out on those steps. It's really something else.
It is. And, it goes beyond travel, too. Like, what if we looked at our own lives that way, our communities, with that same sense of curiosity about the history behind things?
Oh, I love that.
We might be surprised at what we find, even in our own backyards.
It's true. We often just go through life, go through our routines, and take things for granted. But what if we actually slowed down a little bit, and ask questions about the things we see every day, dug a little deeper? Imagine the stories we'd find. Exactly. I mean, think about it. What's the story behind that old bakery downtown? Or that weird statue in the park? There's history all around us, just hiding in plain sight.
This deep dive has been amazing. It's not just about, the Spanish Steps or even just Italy, really. It's about having that sense of wonder, that curiosity about the world, and looking for those hidden connections and stories.
I couldn't agree more. It's about embracing discovery wherever it takes you.
Well said. And on that note, we have a question for all of you listening out there. What hidden histories are you curious about? What landmarks or traditions or even family stories have you always wanted to explore further? We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, definitely. Share your discoveries with us on social media using #DeepDiveHistory.
We can't wait to hear what you find. Until next time, keep exploring, everyone.
Happy travels.